must have sent an invite or something at some point that I don't know.
Well, sure, something.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate it. Sorry to bother, but if you get any information on it, let me know. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, are we here?
I'm here.
I'm here.
All right, so what I did is I think I circumvented the system here. All right.
You got it?
Yeah, so let me double check to make sure we're good to go. To my listening audience, thank you for tuning in to React Radio. We had the time of our lives trying to get this broadcast going on. Facebook is, as I told to my guests here, a glorified advertising agencies to commodify our relationships and monitor the flow of information at the behest of government agencies. So they're not always the easiest thing to deal with. I want to make sure that all of my guests are on. So they're not always the easiest. All right, and I see that we are all on. Now, okay, I refuse to lose.
What time is it? What time is it?
Oh man, 6:35. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go live at weactradio.com so that we can reach the widest audience possible, because everybody, as we like to say in DC, is not on Facebook. All right, contrary to popular belief. So let me just push a few buttons here. For those who are joining us and you are unaware who these iconic figures are in front of you, I am not one of them. You will be informed to who they are in just a moment, as I am double broadcasting here. Let me push a few buttons and we'll be ready to start. All right, give me just a second for our, and of course, you know, we have speakers on the street of React Radio, so you have folks waiting for buses that are part of our captive audience as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boom, there we go. And now,
I'm gonna miss the bus.
woo, here we are. Oh,
Pow, pow.
Darryl, many apologies. Dera, many apologies. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your contributions to the cultural landscape. I didn't ask you guys for bios because I just want to, I like introducing people and I like doing things differently. We don't supposed to do everything the same way, particularly as a mainstream would do it. We have to personalize our approach. We have to do a common thing in an uncommon way. One of those things is having drinks during happy hour. So toast to you. And I just want to say that, you know, what you both have meant to me is that when I see Dera, I know I'm in the right place. If I'm at an event and I see Dera, I know I'm in the right place. And when an artist has appeared on a production that Darryl Brooks has done, I know that is a legitimate artist. I know that's going to be a legitimate production. I know it's going to be a legitimate show. From the time that I first saw Darryl was on stage at Chuck Brown's funeral. The first introduction to Dera was done by Tone Walters, who brought me to her house and said, I have to meet her, you know, and these were hellified introductions. So I like to credit Chuck Brown with introducing me to Darryl Brooks, and I like to credit Tone Walters for introducing me to Dera. Now, for those who are unaware who these iconic figures are, I would say that they have been iconic cultural curators who have really explicitly been what we like to call our talking drum. The drum is the only musical instrument that has ever been outlawed. It was outlawed here in North America during the colonial period, the slave period. And one of the things that burns my goat is when we confuse entertainment with culture. I don't think that we say enough about the importance of our music. I think it was a rapper Nelly who said that, why do black folks take music so seriously? It's only entertainment. So let's start there and then making a distinction between entertainment and black music. Darryl Brooks, one of the last independent music promoters in this city, in this country, and perhaps in the world, responsible for bringing Prince here every time he came to DC. He worked with everyone from Stevie Wonder to the Jacksons to NWA to Public Enemy. And he managed quite a few artists as well. Dera Tompkins, who was a badass at Howard University and was part of the HU takeover in 1967. She said that was a revolutionary dream come true. And she also said, who said niggas can't organize? She went to Zimbabwe. She was there and met Robert Nesta Marley, better known to the world as Bob Marley. And that is our footnote from there. So let's start a conversation with distinguishing between entertainment and black music. And Darryl, if we may, ladies first.
Please, I was going to make ladies first.
Thank you. I felt called to answer that one because I'm sorry for Nelly that he doesn't understand. But our music is entertainment, but it's also a message. It's a weapon. It's a way we survived. You know, from our slavery times until now, through our sorrow songs, through our gospel, we're telling our stories. Sometimes we couldn't speak the truth, but we could sing it, okay? We could get away, and we had hidden messages in our songs. So it is a medium that brings us joy and gets us through movements. The whole civil rights movement was fueled by music, by songs, by chants, and that's what has kept our spirit going. So Nelly is mistaken. Maybe the art he partakes in is just entertainment, and there's a role for that. But I choose in particular, because of the state of the world and the status of my people, to work with politically correct cultural artists. Is why I kind of ended up in the reggae stream, because there was an abundance of politically conscious reggae artists at the time I first got to know reggae. So I only choose to work with cultural and political artists. And so that's why I don't work for a record company. And I've kind of gone on my own to find the people I want to work with and that I want to represent. So it's a weapon. It can educate the people. It uplifts the people. In reggae, you've got the messages of Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie and, you know, all the great leaders that we've ever known, Kwame Nkrumah. And so it teaches and it lifts and it educates. So sorry, Nelly.
Sorry.
No point.
or like this, as Jay-Z and would say, sorry, not sorry. All right. Mr. Brooks.
Yes.
Mr. B.
I think that Dera said it very, very well. And I think from my standpoint, there were certain things that drove me to listen to certain kind of music because it had a message. And Philadelphia International did a song called "A Message in Our Music." I recognize the messages and the passing of communication from one tribe to another, one neighborhood to another. I think NWA kind of uplifted when they gave their message from what was happening on the West Coast to the East Coast. I think Public Enemy gave their message, and all those things were rooted from things that had transpired before, with your Last Poets, with your Dick Gregory's, and a lot of other speakers, that they kind of marinated their music or their messages in their poems and their drum beats. And some of the things that James Brown was a great messenger in our culture. But I also recognize that even before all of those came into play, our message was coming from Africa, because they had a lot of different tribes that got caught up and brought to these shores and the Caribbean shores. And no one knew how to speak different languages. There was a lot of confusion there, and they kind of got rid of a lot of the elders. So the drum and certain chants were basically universal in understanding. You can understand sadness, you can understand fear, and you can understand telling a story. And now a lot of people are speaking a language that was in a tongue that was not theirs from their DNA. So consequently, those things this thing has bounded us together. If you mentioned some of the artists I've dealt with over the years, I'm similar to Dera, but in another genre of music. Stevie Wonder, we honored him in 1975. Nina Simone, we honored her in 1974. Dick Gregory. We were honored in 1973. Those were the kind of, and that was in my nonprofit days. Those are the things that connected the community. And as you said, some of the chants and hymns that were sung during the civil rights movement, when it was out in the street and marching, those things tied people together and gave people hope, and had given them focus and gave them a certain kind of calmness, as well as mourning, because there were a lot of funerals, there were a lot of pain during that time period. So there was definitely a message and a consolement in the music that we that brought us up. And that was one communication that no one can understand, because we have a way of communicating that's different from anybody else. You always know when a black man's on the phone or a black woman's on the phone. We have a certain vibration, a certain frequency that you know what it is. So
Indeed.
It's in our DNA.
Right. And I want to take it to the whole international story, because if you look at the music and the history of our music and the movement of Black people throughout the diaspora, it's been like a call and response. You know, the music, all the music is African music, wherever Black people are, whether it's Cuba, Bahia, England, wherever. Here, go-go is African music, okay? And it's the drum. So let's start with the drum and what that means. And we've been sending messages to each other all the way through. So when you go to Cuba, you hear music that you know from Africa. When it goes back to Africa, to Senegal, they recognize the vibe. It's all one, and now with the internet and with us traveling and with us seeing and recognizing each other, it's all coming together. We're speaking the same language to each other. And a lot of it is resistance. In different ways, it's resistance against the system. Very well said.
Hey, that it is. Now, when you say that, how, like it's been said before, a weapon formed against us. How do you think that our music, whether you agree, maybe you disagree, but if you do, how do you feel that our music has been used as a weapon against us?
Well, it's not it's been, excuse me, dear, if you want to go ahead.
Well, I don't think it's been used. I mean, it's a weapon against us because of capitalism and white supremacy. So that's been used against us to separate. I mean, when I grew up, music was separated. Venues were Black and white, and promoters were Black and white. That's why Darryl is very important, because he is a prominent Black promoter. There's not many other brothers in this town who can handle the shows that Darryl can at the level he does, and so that's why he's critical. Again, he's a cultural carrier. He can't sing or dance that well, but he knows how to put on a show. Okay, so that's his value, and that's why I gravitated toward him. I came to him, I knew him when I was younger, and he was somebody I looked up to with great admiration. And I finally met him, our paths crossed with reggae, because he started working with Third World. And then somebody, I don't know if he heard about me or I heard about him, but that's when we connected. And then we've been connected ever since, like family.
This is when you guys first met.
Well, no, I think I met Darryl before. I always knew about Darryl. I was just nobody, and he was like Darryl Brooks. Darryl used to, Darryl, okay, so back in the day, what was Ed Murphy's Supper Club? That's what I was talking to Darryl earlier. He used to come in this raccoon coat, baby. It was this big raccoon coat, and he was the man. He had all this flow and all this charisma. He was the big man in town, and I was nobody. I was like a student, and I had to learn and grow till I could actually speak and address him.
Wow.
I had to learn something, and so by the time he got into reggae, then he kind of needed to talk to me.
Now, Darryl, have you done any reggae shows, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what's the reggae shows?
Reggae Sunsplash.
I did Reggae Sunsplash in D.C. I brought Ziggy Marley and the I3 here
Melody.
at Constitution Hall. I've done.
So that's an artist you both have worked together with. She's worked with Ziggy. You worked with Brittany.
Those types of shows, I would look for Dera, because Dera has always been very astute and sharp in that community, and she's a good PR person and very intelligent. And that's the kind of team.
Oh, thank you, Darryl.
Where'd he run?
I don't know. Kimon is here to answer the door. Okay, this is like live TV.
Look, I told you, Black man in therapy.
This is real. Okay. Hi.
I'm getting books delivered while we're speaking.
Okay, fine.
I'm
a librarian.
We need to talk. I'm all about distributing books east of the river. I want to talk about some more of the artists that you both have worked together with. Because it
Darryl?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just shared that while you were running to the door. We did Flash. We did Third World. I did the Marleys when they came in with I3.
It's hard to remember, okay, because there was so much.
I3.
Park. No, we did some stuff in the park. And I think we did some, Dera got involved with that. And one of the things that, and here's something that just for your archives that you probably have no idea. My son came to town, and I was doing this show with Third World at the Kilimanjaro, which was a club that was up in the Columbia Road. And I had my son.
I used to go see Chuck then.
Make a flyer. And then Dera did an exhibit at a Smithsonian annex over in Anacostia. So I'm walking through the exhibit, and I see one of my son's flyer as part of her exhibits, and it just blew me away because
I remember
the transition of art, the transition, the communication of history, and then to see something that you curated, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and then all of a sudden someone puts it in display as a part of a history or tapestry of information. It kind of blows my mind, and it blew my mind personally. But I say all that to say that the kinds of programs that have transpired and the kinds of concerts that have been developed in the DC area alone have been basically as an awareness and awakening from a cultural, art, educational standpoint. And that has been the focus of my team since 1972, if not longer. And if you look at our history, and I can't name all the things we've been a part of, from programs in Anacostia Park that taught macrame, plays, enforcement, violin. We built a village out there, painting, leathercraft. But we had evening concerts, which gave a spawning ground for local groups to be exposed to the community. And that went on for like 4.5 years, 5 years, until the government built a skating ring out there. But if you look at what we did down in the monument grounds back in the 70s, we had art and essay contests that was implemented through the high schools in the District of Columbia. And the winners of those art and essay contests were judged by the teachers of the DC public schools. And then we got McDonald's, a sponsor, to print the winners' works and then distribute them through their outlets, through their restaurant chain. So there was always a tie-in to bring education involved, communication on a positive level, and also bring in commerce businesses to be involved with the community. So those are the kind of things that made us alive, or made me wake up in the morning and say, I want to go do this. And I think that when the District of Columbia switched gears and said, okay, we're not funding arts anymore, and starting at the Bicentennial, and they shut down all arts programs in the DC area, we went from nonprofit to profit. I think I kind of shared this story with you before, come on. And the guys who were working with us in the parks and working with these different programs, we took them on the road. Some of them still in the business today with union cars that work for the IATSE in DC, have their own production companies in Florida, or have other jobs in the industry. And we had a lot of people who got involved with us all across. I think you might have heard this story once, I'm not sure. One of the winners in our art and essay contest ended up being a writer for USA Today. Excuse me. And what was so phenomenal about that, once we got into the concert business, we were trying to get our concerts reviewed, because it gave us status, as well as brought the culture to a bigger audience, and let people know that you got a concert company here that's bringing quality shows. Well, we got this one review. I could never get the Washington Post to do it. It really saddened me, and I used to try to beat my head trying to make relationships with.
You were surprised by that, sir? You're surprised by that, sir?
Well, my nickname for the Washington Post is called the Whipping Post. Okay.
The Whipping Post. Okay.
That's my favorite name for them, the Whipping Post, because they didn't do nothing to lift anybody. They would just whip them and beat down my community. So anyway, we had this article. We did this great show, and it ended up being reviewed in the USA Today, and I was blown away. So I said, man, I'm gonna call the news desk and find out who this writer was, because I'm gonna invite him to all my shows. So I got to the news desk, found out who the writer was, read who the writer was, asked could I speak to the writer, and they put the guy on the phone. I get on the phone and say, hey, thank you very much for the review. Da, da, da. He said, you're welcome, Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks. He said, yes, I know you. You gave me an award from the art and essay contest when you did a human kindness.
Wow.
I fell to the floor. I was done. I was done.
It's the connectedness that people don't really appreciate.
You don't things you do and put out in the universe, you never know what grows from that. What those seeds of help or those seeds of programs you're involved in. You don't know when you never know when that's gonna pop up. And I mean, it was those kind of things that give you inspiration and make you inspired. So you know what, I'm gonna continue to do this because I like the results. Well,
let me tell you my connectedness. I started my first foray into self-realization. And I want to get into your guys on your terms. Or what was your first foray into self-realization? Like when you realize, like, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. My self-realization was a result of the Million Man March, October 16, 1995. I charged to go back to the community and do something. It took me a minute to process. Dera, I think you'd be proud to know that I went to Jamaica to find some cultural inspiration and to answer those questions. And the voices came to me while I was in Jamaica. I had to jump off the cliff in the grill a couple times. But I said, I'm going to do a Black Love Festival. We need to have a major event.
Oh, yeah.
That's not commercial. This is when U Street was the main thoroughfare for poets and open mics, and these type of artists could never get on stages on the bigger festivals, and so we created our own stage. Now, in doing that, I met someone who ran my AIDS mobilizations, because at the time, DC, the pandemic here was the fact that DC had 12 times the national AIDS infection rate, which was a direct result of the lack of voter representation. I got to put that out there. That's why statehood is important, because this racist Congress was preventing needle exchange programs from being funded in Washington, D.C., and that was over 30% of all new AIDS cases were directly attributed to dirty needles, which means for over 10 years, that means a cumulative of over 300% of the new cases were all attributed to just that, lack of voter representation. Having said that, the person who ran that is now my business partner at WEAC Radio. Had no plans, but he volunteered. So a volunteer at an event I created, and people was chastising me, Darryl, like, how much money you make? You see how much money you losing? Why are you sinking money into this? But Black Love Festival put me in a position to, with my self-realization, to do what I'm doing today. Now, the reason WEAC Radio became about is actually a result of what it originally was called the Artist Performance Arts Bill. And that was, it's been revisited now, but that was originally sponsored by Congressman, the late John Conyers. God bless him, and thank you for that interview that he blessed me with. He wanted to see the artists get paid when their records were played. And traditionally, you've seen Black musicians get cheated out their publishing, and then that means they often end up destitute or forced to perform until their golden years. But Kathy Hughes, who was the largest conglomerate of Black radio station in the country, was on her soapbox night and day rallying against it, accusing John Conyers of trying to attack Black radio. I mean, John Conyers, the jazz man, the jazz congressman, the man that put on a jazz concert at every CBC, is attacking Black radio. And she was saying that this would put him out of business. And we put together a panel sponsored at Busboys and Poets, because her theme was to save Black radio. And we felt a bad taste in our mouths because a lot of the artists that we know couldn't get played on the record. I have friends who have won Peabody Awards, have did the theme music for national syndicated television programs, have traveled the world, sold records from South Africa to Finland, but they couldn't get their record played in the city that they live in. So we wanted to change that. And after that panel, the seeds were planted for the formation of an independent radio station that was controlled by people. Hence WEAC Radio. So that is how we brought it here. And as full circle, that bill failed, but now has been reintroduced and is now called the American Music Fairness Act, that establishes domestic performance right for sound recordings played on terrestrial radio stations. And under this new bill, artists, performers, producers, and other music makers involved in the creation of a sound recording would be entitled to fair market rate for their music played on radio stations across America, just like they currently receive on other music platforms like streaming services, satellite radio, and internet radio. Now, I want to get y'all feedback on what do you think about the American Music Fairness Act, or maybe the unfairness that the business had treated Black musicians and artists over the years. And real quick, a shout out to Sean Glover at Sound Exchange for co-sponsoring this bill, and all the artists that came to town, Dionne Warwick, Raheem DeVaughn, Deborah Bond, and all these great artists that came out here to support the American Music Fairness Act. I turn the floor back over to my distinguished elders.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think that it's very important, and I think one of the things that's interesting is that as technology advances, obviously there's new rules that need to be in effect, and those who are at the forefront of those make the rules that you have to eventually break or pass to get and find out what's really going on. Because when they were just putting stuff on 45s or 33 1/3s or 78s, somebody controlled the actual material. But now with the digital, you can't control the material, because once it goes viral or once it gets into the system, it's all over the place. That's why they give you like pennies for spins or streams, and you don't get the revenue. But someone's getting the revenue because they're getting revenue off advertising, and they're not sharing that across the board. So I'm in 100% agreement.
I don't know all the details of the movement, but it sounds artists always get, it seems that the whole system forever has been set up to award the owners of the means of production, and the artists and the people who actually create the art and the music and the vibe get nothing or next to nothing. So I think it's right for them to get paid any way they can, and it's very sad that they weren't. I'm sorry to hear Kathy Hughes was not in favor, but she was an owner. Okay, she was an owner, so she's in a different place. But I know that Raheem was part of the action the other day. I saw it on Facebook and Tone. So I support the movement. 100%.
All right, there we are on record. With shameless self-promotion here, we have seen actually before COVID now, all of the cultural institutions, all of the festivals that celebrate Black culture in this city disappear, from even Kathy Hughes' Stone Soul Picnic, to the Black Family Reunion, to Georgia Avenue Day, to
Caribbean Carnival.
Caribbean Carnival, U Street Festival, Unifest, and my contribution on the Black Love Festival. We're bringing the Black Love Festival back next year for our 25th anniversary. And I'd like to publicly solicit you guys' support and input to make that a joyous, revolutionary occasion. So I'm just putting that out there, shameless self-promotion, and I am making a public solicitation for your support. All right. Now, we want to get into your greatest accomplishment and your greatest challenge. Your greatest accomplishment and your greatest challenge. And the reason I want to have that conversation is because oftentimes we share our successes and we think that that's inspiring people, but it could also have the opposite effect of the desired effect. It could be the opposite, because they're looking at your successes, and when they fail, they think something is wrong with them. So oftentimes the bigger inspiration is sharing your failures, your losses. You know, that's why I put out here, whenever I get turned down for a grant, or I get a letter of we're sorry, thank you for applying, I share that stuff because social media today, everybody's winning. And so if you don't win, you actually think something's wrong with you. I think this is one of the most vicious aspects of American society, because in America, they tell you that if you are successful, it's because the system, The system has, you benefited from the system. But when you fail, then there's nothing wrong with the system. There's something wrong with you. And I wholeheartedly reject that. So that's what I'm setting up this conversation for. If you guys will, at your go at whatever order you like, you're willing to share what you feel is your greatest accomplishment and your greatest challenge of your career.
My greatest accomplishment was just, well, when I went to Jamaica for the first time in 1977, and I had done a lot of study, and I had been inspired and informed by Stokely Carmichael, who was the first person to really tell me about the Rastafarians in Jamaica. And I finally just had to go there in 77 because there was too much that I felt was part of my experience. So when I got there and I really got a chance to, see the culture, understand the music, understand the people, and what Jamaica had to offer in terms of message and music, and even the Rastafarian movement as an example of Black, self-reliance. I knew that I had seen what happened to other Black musics in America. Blues, gospel, R&B had all been taken over by white people. And all the white people were the spokespeople for our music. All the Jewish guys were running all the jazz artists, and I'd seen this happen. And I said, you know what? If some of us here don't get involved in this music and learn to be players in this business, then it will be a lot of white folks who will be the ones who are speaking on behalf of the artists and the music format. And I was determined at that point to become a player. Now, this was difficult because I was a woman, and we're all kind of barriers in the Rasta culture, in Jamaican culture, in U.S. culture. But I knew this was my path, and so I had to forge ahead. And so even though I had been to Jamaica, I realized I had to get involved with the Jamaican community here. My goal was to become involved and noted, and to be a spokesperson and somebody who knew how to deliver this music to my community, to my people, especially here in DC, because this music was, again, going to uplift them. It was going to raise their consciousness. It was going to give them something more than just dance music. It was going to fill their heads with something to think about, and think about Bob Marley, think about Burning Spear, think about the mighty, think of the messages that we all do know from Jamaica. So my goal was almost to acculturate to Jamaica, to become a part of that culture so that it was seamless. I was with them, they were with me, and I accomplished that goal. So to me, that is the most important thing, the thing that gives me the most honor, that I can move in that world, that I have a space and a place. I never owned a record company or, had a big anything. I never made a whole lot of money either, but I'm a player. Even some of the white persons who are some of the talking heads, they have to call me. They call me when they want to clear something up or find something out. Charlie Comer, who was one of the best known publicist in the day. He worked for all the top white groups in England, and he also worked with Bob Marley. He used to call me. What does Catch a Fire mean? What does this mean? So that's my biggest accomplishment, to become somebody who was knowledgeable and articulate about this genre of music that meant so much to me. And that was my greatest accomplishment.
Mr. B,
and my greatest challenge was doing that.
And it was the greatest challenge.
It was my greatest, because it was difficult. I was, back then, things are different now, but back then being a girl in the business wasn't cute. When I had to learn how to write press releases. I had to learn how to work backstage. I volunteered. I did everything I could so I could learn to do press releases, have a press conference, all the things that are behind the scenes. I always wished I could sing, but that didn't happen. So the best thing I could do was be an impresario for this music, to bring my tribe, my Black American tribe. Back then, people didn't know Jamaica. They didn't know reggae. They couldn't even pronounce it. And I wanted to be the person up front to say, come, this is yours. It's ours. We need to do this. And so it was great because like Darryl, we had a Black community to work with. It was a Black community, 100%, and we could speak. And in fact, I started doing some work. One of the ways I started, it was Seth Horowitz, who owns 930 Club, who was doing some of the first reggae shows, even before the Kilimanjaro, at the old 930 Club on F Street. So I got involved with Seth. He and his partner Richard used to hire me because I could go on the radio, I could go in the Black community, and I could promote the show. Like he couldn't. They couldn't do it. and I had to do it. So that's how I got my chops. They, took me in, and they didn't check me. They trusted me. They knew I was going to do it because my heart was in this more than just for the money. And that's how I got my start working on some of the shows I worked on. I also worked with Bill Royal at the District Curators. And then further down the line, the Kilimanjaro came up, Darryl came up, and other things happened. I got to be the talent buyer for the Taste of DC. I actually did talent buying I did that for Morgan Day and a couple other festivals as well. So that it was a challenge because this is my second profession. This is what I do in the evening. Okay, as you know, Simone and Darryl, I'm a medical librarian at NIH.
Yeah, how is a roster impresario be able to maintain a good government job doing all of this? How is that?
Well, you got to be versatile. I knew, like I said, I needed a way to support myself because I didn't think music was going to really be my sole support, and I didn't want to be that, because then when it is, you have to do a lot of things you don't want to do.
You have to make different decision choices, wouldn't you?
Right. So my job has been my backup. I have a degree in library science, and I was blessed to get a job and start working there years ago, and I've maintained that because I have to live. I need health insurance. Hello. So I made sure I had that part of my life straight so I could do other things in the evening, and I could work my magic in my community as I chose to. I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to work with every single artist. I only work with artists I respected, and I've been able to do that.
All right.
Life.
Boop, boop, boop. Mr. B. Oh, real quick, Mr. B. Shout out to Seth. Is it Horowitz? Is that how you say his last name?
Seth Horowitz.
Yeah. Shout out to Seth, because Seth gave me the green light to use the old WST radio tower on the top of 930 Club. He's going to give it to WEAC Rail, but middle finger to the FCC to shut that shit down. All right, so we'll give Seth a shout out right there. Mr.
Okay,
B,
well.
Yeah. Mr. B, greatest challenge, greatest accomplishment.
Greatest challenge, I guess, was to believe in myself and also understand where I was and what I had a capability or calling to do. I think it was like always, to me, it was always about service. It was about helping people. And I think it was a transition that I had to go through within myself to say, instead of worrying about taking care of me all the time, I would try to make sure that what I did was worthy so that somebody would recommend me for their next job. So word of mouth and being a good PR person with my attitude, my skills, and my follow through and my commitment was always there. Because I started out as a school teacher, teaching phys ed in elementary schools, but I wanted to own my own business. My parents owned laundromats and had a rooming house back in the day, and I would collect the rent and clean up the laundromats. And I always recognized that if you work for yourself, you write your own check. And to me, the art of writing your name on a check 3 times was an honor. You know what I mean? Most people can't write their name on a check 3 times. But paid to the order of DB, signed by DB, endorsed by DB. That means all of that's mine. And that gave me motivation to get up in the morning and know that when I went out to work, I was working for me or my family at the time. So I always knew I had a reason to get up versus working for somebody else. You might say, I don't want to feel like listening to that stuff today, or I'm not going to do that today. So those are the things that kind of had me focused. Now, yes, I've been blurred. I've lost my way, as Erykah Badu says sometimes, because I got involved with some things that took me off my mark. But I guess my DNA and my family and my upbringing kind of put me back on mark again. And the kinds of things I've been involved in, from touring Parliament Funkadelic, touring Natalie Cole, doing local shows, getting involved with the civil rights movement, as far as Stevie Wonder when he did the March on Washington for trying to do Martin Luther King holiday, being a part of a benefit concert at the Capitol Center, utilizing the people that I knew and having a good team around me. Because believe me, no one could do any of this stuff by themselves. Don't ever think I or anybody else does this by themselves. You need a team of people who, number one, are together to believe in what you're doing, believe in the cause, and let that energy take you to the next step. We've had the opportunity with that kind of attitude to do shows all across the planet, been involved with different groups, all types of groups, from groups that sing opera to young artists coming out like Maya or Salt and Pepper or Kid and Play or different people across the planet. And then doing shows because of what we did, and we were called on to do other things. For an example, I don't know if you remember when they had those boys were being missing down in Atlanta. We had been doing concerts in Atlanta for years. So the building in the city said, hey, can you bring a young show down here and do the show during the day from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, just to uplift our kids and bring another spirit to our neighborhood. We did that. I mean, there were different things we were called upon doing to get involved, only because of our commitment and connection with the community and understanding what our community was about. And that basically came from being nurtured in DC and Southeast and dealing with the arts community at that time and some of the movers and shakers of my elders like Al Dale, Tony Taylor, Mason Leavenworth, those people who were involved with the community and gave me a blueprint, Motor Gico, Robert Hooks. There were guys who were out there doing stuff in the community that were very cultural, very uplifting, and gave you an awareness. And there were street guys who were trying to also make sure that their kids were in a good environment. And we provided that. The programs we had in Anacostia Park, we never had any problems out there. And I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of people out there with no policing but themselves. Then anybody came to the park that was doing something whack, the community said he got to go. Because everybody in the neighborhood knows who the whack people are. Everybody knows. Nobody new can walk in. Because then if you walk in out of nowhere, everybody knows, well, who is that? And they want to check you and find out what you're about. But they know who the knuckleheads are. So we had those problems. So it was those kind of things and the word of mouth that perpetuated my career and a lot of my partners' career. So I think that was my greatest challenge, was number one, to hear what our calling was and try to deliver that to the community that we serve.
Big up.
There it is. Now, did I hear this right, brother DB, that you are finally working on a book?
I've been working on a book for the last 2 years. I have a writer that's I feel comfortable with. He's been gathering a lot of information, pictures, and doing interviews with a lot of different people to tell a story. But I think that I'm trying to figure out the true focus of the book, because I've changed focuses several times because there were different eras of my life that I needed to express. Obviously, rock and roll, or hanging out with the funk, kind of threw my life in one direction. Hanging out with, like the way I said it, hanging out with,
I got you.
Hanging out with, because we used to manage a Third World. That was another direction. Doing Prince was another direction. Doing rap acts, we did one of the biggest rap tours across the country, which was Raising Hell Tour, with Run DMC, Houdini, Public Enemy, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, all the rap tours that came through the 80s and early 90s, we promoted them across country. So it gave us another kind of commitment and exposure. And then, by us managing groups, we ended up going to like Holland and London and Germany and Australia, Japan. I mean, Chuck Brown took me to Japan to play, he played Osaka and Tokyo. And I was off that month, and Chuck said, Darryl, I want you to do me a favor, make a phone call for me and set this up, because they're calling me to play a date in Japan. Okay, I'll do it. And it was a matter of courtesy, because a brother who had been helping me in the park asked me to do him a favor. Can you help me? No problem, I'll do it. It was those kind of things when people trust you to handle something that's precious to them, their career, their life, their family. And I've been doing those kinds of things for a very, very long time. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the amount of respect I have for you is tremendous. In sharing that love, one of the things, and when we was promoting this interview, and I hope the people that was trying to join at 6 p.m. are still with us here when we started at 6:30. Again, I apologize for the delay. They were saying thank you to me for giving Sister Dera her flowers. So I thought the best way to communicate that, since we are not together, is to share some of the statements that I saw that I thought were warm and fuzzy. So Dera, this is some of the people who love and adore you. Yuri Huggins, she says, Dera is one of our warrior queens, truly deserving of recognition. Jay Coleman, one of the great visual artists in DC, says, we love Sister Dera 100 a couple times. Charles Stevenson, another impresario, Charles Stevenson says, Dera is the heartbeat of DC culture. She keeps it real and is always willing to be part of the solution. I love this woman.
Thank you.
Andy Shalal, Ina Shalal, Mr. Shalal, owner a restaurant impresario, Busboys and Poets founder, says, one of the most enlightened sisters I had ever met. Friends forever. Okay, remind him of that when you need to pay your bill at Busboys and Poets.
Okay.
And finally, Edward Jones says, I love when I see her. This is they bit my line. I know I'm in the right place. She radiates good vibes and floats and exudes style and grace.
Oh,
That's
thank you
just a
so
few
much.
flowers for you.
Wow. That means so much. Thank you so much.
That's
Now,
true. I love
just and I try to do the same for you too, Mr. B. But the sister got all the flowers today.
That's no problem.
All right, we just got a few minutes left because I didn't want to keep you any longer. Thank you again for your patience and the delay. My final question would be, well, a question and a story. So I'm gonna ask for a story. So Mr. B, the story I want to hear from you is NWA show in Detroit. I want to hear about that. Okay. The story I want to hear from you, Sister Dera, is Zimbabwe. All right.
Oh.
All right. But before we get into the stories, here's the question: how has the banning of the African drum affected American music? That's a curveball. I don't know if you agree with that statement. Do you think it's a connection? But here's my point. I feel that I don't feel, this is a fact. The fact is that when the drum was banned here in America, the only place that the enslaved Africans were allowed to play the drum was in Congo Square in New Orleans. And I submit to you that there's no coincidence that Congo Square in New Orleans and jazz being born out of New Orleans is not a coincidence. And jazz being one of the roots of American music, particularly Black American music, that's where I'm going with this. So how do you feel about the banning of the drum and its effect in American music? Because I think that, when the rap was coming out, I was trying to ban these records from saying this, and the rosters may have been banned from their practice and their culture and the way they do it. So how do y'all interpret that? I just want to throw that out there since it's a post-Black music conversation.
Well, let me just say, I suspect there were many Congo Squares. We might not know about all of them. We know about Congo Square because the history is there and it was kept. But the drum never, even though it was banned, it never left us anywhere. It's the thing that connects us everywhere. Any Black, nation you go to, the drum is the foundation of everything, the rhythm, the beat, even before the voice, it's the drum. So they might have banned it, but it just like our African retentions, it never left us, and it links us and joins us today. So Congo Square wasn't the only place. When I go to Bahia and Salvador, the city of Salvador, the drum is the major instrument, period. They have bands of drums of 200 drummers that just drum and walk down the street and sing. And that is the Africa that's in Bahia now. They kept that culture strong, even though it was banned there years ago as well. But so the drum has come through and is what is our foundation in music. It's the foundation of all music internationally, okay, period. So they banned it, but they didn't stop it.
I agree. I mean, back in the day when I was coming up in the late 60s, early 70s, and I was running around the streets, we used to go to Malcolm X Park. Malcolm X Park, brothers were up there a whole bunch of brothers, and that Melvin Deal and the African drummers. There was a lot of cultural guys up there as well as street guys, and Afro-Cuban rhythms. Rhythms, all kinds of stuff. So it's always been there. I don't know. They can't ban. It's like how you gonna ban your heartbeat? It's not gonna happen.
Correct. It is the heartbeat. Yep. So they tried, but they didn't, and we still keep striving.
I like how you said they banned it, but they didn't stop it. And yes, there was many Congo squares because there was resistance everywhere. Some of it was we know about Congo Square, but how many other places we don't know about because it was subversive and it was hidden and so that's dope. I really appreciate you guys tying that together.
If I can just interject, it was spoken earlier when DC was banning go-go. Well, go-go basically was drum driven, Afro-Cuban driven, and some of the young kids didn't get the same music lessons that Chuck and Sergio and all those guys had in the beginning, but they wouldn't let it on the radio. They said, no, we don't want that music on our radio station because they weren't appealing to sophistication and what white sponsors were involved in, because they wanted the sophisticated Negro and not the street Negro or the layman. But guess what? We started walking around with our own boom boxes on our heads, taping our own shows, and didn't listen to radio. And when radio realized that young people weren't listening to radio no more, they said, I think we better put that stuff back on. Every time a business, a concert hall gets ready to go out of business, the first thing they do is put some go-go in there because they know that's a built-in audience, period. So they know what they want us when they want us, and they don't want us when they don't want us. But we have to realize as a culture, and I try to preach this to my guys all the time, we don't recognize our wealth and worth in our own community because we wouldn't be relying for other people that do not look like us to feed us, give us narcotics, and to drive us around and ask them questions and try to get things delivered to our own community from top to bottom.
There it is. And you talked about how there was cutting out art programs earlier in this conversation. I just want to put out that they actually removed instruments from DC Public Education altogether during the control board. So again, why we need to have DC statehood and have self-determination for ourselves right here. And real quick, to give you some flowers, sir, you have Mason P. Ash. Do you know Mason P. Ash?
He's my attorney.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, well, I don't know.
Okay, that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Counts then. But I would like to have you know that your attorney says the living legend and the real deal. Congratulations on your well-deserved spotlight. Let's save that for your book when it comes out, okay? Okay. All right, but I want to make sure I gave you something, even if you had to pay for it. Okay.
Very good attorney too, Mason P. Ash. He's a distant cousin of Arthur Ashe. So.
Oh, what?
Good. It's good. We call it a lineage there. It's good.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That thought didn't occur to me. I'm just following him or requested to follow him on IG. He has a private account. And
he also deals with the Jazz Society, and they've been doing a lot of stuff, and they look forward to a lot of stuff they plan on doing up on U Street at the old Reeves Center. He's involved with a lot of good brothers like David Yarborough. So believe me, he's been involved with sports and entertainment for years. Very good brother.
You know,
can I?
Absolutely.
I just want to give my props to Darryl because he has been my hero and somebody I have been able to look up to throughout my whole career in the music business. He's always been there for me. He has stayed in touch. He's given me, we laugh, we joke. And I reminded Darryl today that when I moved into my house, the first day I moved in, Darryl came and he brought a palm. It was Palm Sunday, April, back in the day. And like I said, I don't know if he went to church, but he brought the palm, and we have been not only, connected in the business, but we have been brothers and sisters. I know his daughter very well, and wherever he goes, I go. He lets me in his shows all the time. Sometimes I have to beg, but he does let me in. But I have to
backstage. I have to beg to get backstage. Well,
okay. It's okay. It's okay. I love him anyway because he's there, and he has been an oak, a mighty oak in our community. that young brothers can look up to him and see a brother who worked. You know, I think the common denominator amongst all three of us speaking right now is the community. That is what has inspired all of us and has made us, as Darryl said, get up in the morning. That wanting to lift us up, all of us up. You know, either it was through educational programs or just through the messages and the music, or like Your Black Love, just putting Blackness up there and making sure you bring your tribe with you. That's what has moved all of us and connected. We're grassroots. We're not, you know, famous and in the way other people are famous, but we're famous where we want to be famous and with the people who want to be.
And as I said earlier, and I thank you for that, Dee. But as I said earlier, it's not just one person that does any of this. Like I have a crew. Right. I've been a partner with Carol Kirkendall since '72, right. Gerald Scott since '72. But there's a whole host of folks that have been involved, that have believed in or trusted in the efforts and in the vision of us collectively, and have kept a certain kind of movement going, or as Erykah Badu says, a certain kind of light on in our communities, but people know that's the energy I want to follow. That's the direction I want to go, and it's a blessing, and I'm glad to be able to have served and be able to serve my community. That in DC, I think that we've contributed a lot. Government has not. Watch this. As far as awards and acknowledgments, the city, I'm not on their radar. But in certain communities, I'm on their radar. Yep. And that's what counts. Okay? Only time these other folks will pop up is when they need some of your shine to get them in the communities that they can't get in. You know what I mean? And that's how that works. Believe me, when you start getting shine, politicians won't get close to you because they don't have the same shine you got. And they'll stand beside you so you can help walk them through. And I'll give you an example. When we used to be out in Anacostia Park, Carol was out there every day for months at a time. When they started trying to get politicians were trying to get votes in the Southeast, they would ask Carol to get on the bandwagon and jump on the back of the truck and ride through the community and pass out flyers. And Carol said, why do you want me to go? When they got on the truck and she rode through the name, everybody, hi, Miss Carol, hi, Carol, hi, Carol. They didn't know who some of them politicians were. They didn't have a clue who these people were. That's hilarious, but you get my picture. That's just the truth of it all.
Wow. Well, I think you both are much deserving of the key to the city, and whether you ever get the key, I'm glad that you both know how to pick the locks. All right.
Very well said.
I have to make a sidebar statement here. I apologize, but I'll be remiss if I don't mention something that occurred to me. Was when you said that your lawyers are this relative of Arthur Ashe. I felt as a young person, as a very immature, ignorant young person, that tennis was a soft sport. So that means Arthur Ashe was a soft dude, and I had no interest or much respect for him. It wasn't until I saw Mike Tyson, who I had a lot of respect and honor for, got into the ring with an Arthur Ashe tattoo, that I said, I need to check out Arthur Ashe. And when I read his book, hence read a book, I was amazed at who Arthur Ashe was, not just as a player, but as a man, and as one of our greatest political Black athletes. And he was a man of substance, and I cannot honor him enough, so I had to go back and honor Arthur Ashe, and I also had to honor the fact that me reading a book got me to that point, okay? And one of the things that I'm going to do in my lifetime is I'm going to pursue legislation that gets young people out of jail by giving them early release by completing books. They read a book, it takes about a week to finish a book. Every book you finish, you get a week off your sentence. And and that program, I think, would be the best way to address recidivism and break a chain, break the cycle, and break the bullshit as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to put it out there since I had this platform. A lot of people are listening to you, wonderful people. So I want to make sure I shared that, because books and travel are the most transformative things.
I
Okay.
agree.
I want to go back to something else you said earlier, and that is the message in the music. Right now, my label, I Hear You Entertainment, has music on a lot of local performers. Sugar Bear is getting ready to go to his 50th anniversary. They're celebrating that. Sirius and Company is getting ready to put out some very enriching music with Scooby and Miss Kim and that crew. We Are One Experience has been doing some stuff. There's been a Frankie Beverly tribute band, but right now they got some product that is incredible that'll probably be released between now and the fall. Wisdom Speaks is now coming back, and he has some records that we're getting involved with that are very educational, revolutionary, and very mind-provoking. Junkyard Band has some product that's going to be enlightened and lift us to another direction. They got a record called Love Soul Crank. Believe me, it's stepping the game up. DJ Cool has something that he's getting ready to release. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up, that we're not singing booty naked songs, but we're saying we're singing fun, uplifting songs that bring joy, that you can play in the park or at the barbecue or in the basement at the house parties and feel comfortable and enjoying, steppers music and adult stuff that you can feel comfortable with. And we don't have to, do a semi-striptease or what do you call it, a strip club show, because I think that to me is taking our culture in the wrong direction. But I just want to put that out there.
Well, I'm glad you did, and I was just in the studio with Sugar Bear and EU and Charles Stevenson. They was re-recording one of their early releases.
We plan on that.
Yeah, so that's dope. I'm sorry, mother, sister, do you have something you want to add?
No, I'm listening.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no, I'm with you.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up with this story time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters. And who likes to take it first? NWA on DB or Zimbabwe, mother, sister, Dera?
Well, Zimbabwe is a pretty long story. I don't know if you have time for the whole thing or
whatever time you're willing to share, but I couldn't let it go.
I guess if there was a highlight of my life and maybe many other people's lives, it was being in Africa and being in Zimbabwe at the time of independence, and to be there with Bob Marley and the Wailers was just historical, and just everything. That was a revolutionary dream come true for real, because our people had won. We had always heard that it was going to take 1,000 years before Zimbabwe would drop their apartheid system, but it happened in 1,000 days, and our people won. They fought in the bush, freedom fighters, the women were in the bush fighting, and they struggled, and they won, and they were victorious. So this was unbelievable that this could happen. Even Zimbabwe preceded South African independence, so it was really critical. It was interesting because a lot of people didn't know as much about Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe had shut out, tourists. Black people couldn't go to Zimbabwe at all. They weren't allowed, and so they had things kind of under wraps. But it came together, and it was just all of the historic moments coming together that, they were able to reach out to Bob. The ZANU, there were two major factions, ZANU and ZAPU, and ZANU was Mugabe's group. And they knew about Bob Marley's song, Zimbabwe, and what he represented to our people. And they went to Jamaica to find him, to bring him there. And actually, what happened is that when Bob got invited, he knew that he didn't want to take any money out of Zimbabwe. So he actually paid for everything. He paid for his everything. He brought the equipment, he brought the stage, everything he brought to Zimbabwe. He didn't want the people to pay for anything. So for him, this was his highest honor. More than any other honor he was bestowed, while he was living or after his death. This was the whole reason he sang songs. It was for liberation. When he sang One Love, he was really, it wasn't excluding anybody, but it was really one love for Black people, one love for our unity. I mean, his songs have often been misinterpreted by the masses out there, not our masses, but the European masses who want to embrace him. I mean, it's nice, but he was singing from a very deep Black place. And there were songs really to to take us to the next level, and that's what he has done, actually. So being in Zimbabwe for him at that moment, that historical moment, to be the only artist outside of Zimbabwe to perform was a major honor, and so it was a historic highlight. I feel so blessed to have been there, to have witnessed it, to have been there with them, to be there when the 21 cannons were shot and the Union Jack came down for the last time on the continent of Africa and the new Zimbabwe flag was raised. I cannot tell you what that moment was like. It was hysterical. I mean, people screamed for a half an hour straight. So to have that experience, and just a funny little part, I can't tell the whole story because it's too long, but when I was on my way to Zimbabwe, I didn't know or understand if everybody in Zimbabwe really knew about Bob. So before I left, I went to the store, probably Tower Records, and I bought 10 vinyl albums. These were going to be my gifts to people I met. I felt I was bringing the message.
Yeah,
and I said, yes. Right. Albums were about $10, $100, about all I could afford. And, you know, because we did not know, even though we didn't know that the masses knew. And so, but when I got there, Zimbabwe was the #1 song in Zimbabwe, and Eddie Grant, Living on the Front Line was #2. And there were displays everywhere in Harare, which was Salisbury at the time, but changed over to Harare. It was like an unbelievable time in that country. Now, things have changed since that time in 1980, April 17th, 1980. But that moment was historic, and
I got to interject, and a lot of that has to do with U.S. sanctions against Zimbabwe. Just want to throw that out there.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, fine. But it's well different, you know. But that moment was glorious. There's many more details to the story to come back sometime and break it all down. But it was the most important moment in my life so far.
Well, I hope we get the opportunity to have this conversation again, because I would love to hear the rest of that story. DB, you up? NWA, Detroit. It was in the movie. You was there. What really happened?
It was kind of funny because we had had them on about 13 dates, and that was the last date they were a part of the tour that we were doing. It commenced at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. And Joe Louis Arena, you know, situated right downtown Detroit, you had the Detroit Police Department was using a part of their basement of Joe Louis Arena as their assembling point. At the same time, there was a whole, I don't know, I call them undercover police officers who were gang squad or whatever they call them, just roaming around, because during that time period, the youth had the establishment on edge, because you never knew what was going to happen. In Detroit, to have a sold-out show, that meant there was about 20,000 youth, male, female, from all over Detroit in that particular building. We had acts like LL Cool J, Public Enemy. It was a pretty stacked show. And our relationship with NWA was as follows. If you sing "Fuck the Police," if I can say that,
we ain't on the FCC.
it cost you $25,000 fine. And that was our deal with them when we did put them on tour. So they never sang it on tour. And they were very conscious about that. So on that particular day, which is the last day of the tour, we're in Detroit, which is a very strong radio market, and everybody was very familiar with the track. NWA went up on stage, and they would go up in 2 sections. NWA would go first, and then Eazy-E would come second as the second half of their show. So I'm walking in the back of the building heading towards settlement, because around this time this is when they started, you know, settling the show and, you know, getting ready to get paid and all that kind of stuff. I hear a chant, and I hear the chant of the audience saying, "Fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the police." And they were edging the group on saying that. When I heard that, I walked out of the office I was in, because the office was under the building, but you could hear all the sounds that were going on in the building. So I started heading towards the stage with one of my road guys, and I started picking up my pace because the audience got louder and louder. If you know anything about a concert, there are certain people who direct the band. There are certain people who direct the music, and it's generally the DJ when you deal with a rap act. So once a DJ gets the signal to drop a track, it's over. And I'm saying to myself, oh, he's getting ready. I know he's gonna have to do it. And Dr. Dre was on stage. He would have to do it. Why not? It's the last day they're gonna be on tour with it. By this time, I'm running towards the stage. By the time I get close to the stage, he had already dropped it. Bam! Fuck the police. And the arena went crazy. But when they went crazy, all the guys with badges and guns on their hips went crazy too. They started charging the stage. When they charged the stage, NWA ran off the stage out the back door. When the guys came across the stage, they didn't know where to go. So they started going into dressing rooms, as well as the next group who was getting ready to go up on stage was at bay waiting to go up for the next artist. So the police were grabbing everybody, trying to, handcuff them, trying to find out who they were. It ended up being a melee because, number one, they're plain clothes. So nobody knows who they are. The music is stopped on stage. That is frozen. NWA are out the building. The other guys who are back there are trying to figure out what's going on, and police are pulling out handcuffs and guns. And the police chief, those guys with the uniform, come around the corner, and they're looking at everybody. And I started screaming at the top of my lungs, what is going on? I started screaming to my crew, let's get the show started. I don't give a fuck what they're doing. Let's keep our show going, because we got 20,000 people that are waiting for the next act. Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, that used to be on radio in New York, they happened to come to town with us. I told Dre, y'all go on stage and entertain them, and we'll send the next act up immediately. I told Darryl, just get the next act, because everything was already set, preset. By this time, the police had finally stopped, but you had guys in handcuffs. Some guys got, some hit some of the cops and vice versa. So they come and say, where are they? I don't know where they are. They're not in the building. I don't see them. What are their names? I don't know their names. Yella, Ice Cube, T, Easy. What are their real names? I never knew their real names. I don't know. They won't lock me up. They're going to lock Carol up. So I even tried to call the manager. I said, I'll try to get the manager. I called the manager. Hey, I need the names of the groups. The police
what is the charge? What is the charge?
Wait a minute. I don't know. They just started screaming and started yelling. So the manager hung the phone up on me. I said, I can't go there. To make a long story short, the guys ended up getting caught in their bus trying to leave the hotel. Nothing really happened about it. You know what I mean? A whole bunch of hoopla about this disturbing and basically embarrassing the police. I ended up running to the hospital because by this time, by me screaming and yelling, I'm saying, man, I'm giving myself a heart attack. You know what I mean? My blood pressure jumped up, and I get the one of the runners to take me to the hospital. So I'm sitting in the hospital, the emergency ward. The show's still going on, and the lady said, what's wrong with you, young man? And as I said, there were some people coming from the show who also got, trampled by the police. I said, I was with them because they were all, just sort of trying to figure it out. And she gave me some juice, and then my pressure came down, so I went back to the show. But it was an opportunity to see the difference in cultural shock when you have the establishment and their rules trying to implement them on what young people were doing at the same time. It's like probably watching Jackie Wilson, doing songs and shaking, or Wilson Pickens shaking, and the rest of the community or the white community said that's too vulgar. But when Elvis did it, was no problem. You know what I mean? It was different things that were transpiring, and from a street standpoint, it was very high energy and basically uplifting, because police were still beating up folks in California. They were beating them up in Detroit. They were beating them up in D.C. And there was a certain attitude amongst young people calling it out for what it was. And guess what? It's still happening today. So we watched this over and over again, and we're still fighting the same fight, and we're still putting out the same message. And as we start this program, I'm going to end this program. There's a message in the music, and you got to respect it. Bob Marley sent a message in his music. NWA, Public Enemy, Stevie Wonder, Nina Simone, all those folks sent messages in their music. So never stop the music. Never stop the heartbeat of our culture.
Never stop.
Respect.
Never stop. Shout out to the brand new heavies and Dera Davenport. Never stop. Never stop. Now, I don't know if you can outdo that one, mother, sister, but do you have any closing statement, any sign off, any quote, any challenge, anybody you want to cuss out, anybody you want to thank? This is we do shout outs.
Oh, shout out. Okay. I mean,
No, closing statement, whatever. You get the floor is yours to say and do whatever you want.
I just on a different level, I just want to remind my people that in order for Black music to progress, we really have to support our music and support our artists, or else, you know, it kind of doesn't. That's kind of been a problem. I don't think we really understand, you know, what it takes to put together a show, the things that Darryl does. People don't understand how those things happen, the bidding wars, the fights he's had to put on with the establishment, and also just putting up a show. When you buy tickets and support the show, support the promoter and support the artist, the music grows. And so we have to be really mindful of that. You know, it happens, you know, white people have money, so they support white artists, and we sometimes don't have all the funds, but if we love these acts and we love the messages, or we love the entertainment, if that's the case, we have to support them. And we have to make sure that there's brothers to come up behind people like Darryl to take on the same responsibilities to deliver the music and the joy, you know, to our communities. So I think that it's very important. We often forget. We enjoy the fun, but we forget that it is business, and folks have to get paid, and we have to be the ones to take care of our own people.
We have to be the ones to take care of our own people.
Of course.
There's a Dera. I don't think you've ever been to our Anacostia studio on the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue to sign our wall. But
I've been there, but nobody asked me to sign the wall.
But we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to fix that. I know Big D DB signed the wall. I got to find your signature, maybe add some color to it. But on the wall, above all the signatures, the first person, by the way, to sign the wall was Man Barry. That's who kicked the wall off. But on the top of the wall, it says, "I am the master of my fate and the controller of my destiny. If it is to be, it's up to me." I would like to add, it is up to we.
I and I.
Me, we.
Together.
All right. Love
Africa
you all.
Unite.
Love you all. And the last word is a quote from Moms Mabley, because
Okay.
Donald Rumsfeld is dead. So Moms Mabley says, "My mother taught me to speak good of the dead. He's dead. Good." I love you all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. One love.
One love.
Respect.
One
One
love.
aim.
Take care, Jimmy.
Bye, Uncle D.
All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, come on.
Peace. One love.
Irie.
Irie.
Okay, I don't know how to.